if you enjoy these types of very practical 3D printed projects and want to learn how to design your own with Fusion 360, then make sure to check out my free mini series video course that I have linked below. Hey guys, Vladimir here with Desktop Makes. Today's project comes by request of a friend who asked that I make these USB charger cable name tags for her. Now, I didn't even know these were a thing, but I can see why. If you live in a house with multiple people, there's probably a good chance you've had your charger cable swiped a few times. And since they all look the same, it's hard to prove which one is yours. And a 3D printed name tag looks a lot better than duct tape with, your name on it. You know how much I love a good practical project, so challenge accepted. So I checked online and I was able to find these selling on Amazon. And then I went to Etsy and they're all over Etsy, and everyone I came across were all 3D printed. Let's take a closer look at the design and see how we can approach it in Fusion 360. Here's the name tag, and we'll need a hole that goes all the way through in order to insert the cable. But the main challenge I'm seeing here is how to get the wire through it. We simply can't thread it through because both ends are a lot wider than the actual cable. This picture doesn't show the back side, but by looking closely, it looks like this is a two-piece assembly that snaps together to sandwich the cable. And this was going to be my first approach. Design this as a two-piece snap fit assembly. However, in most of my designs, I usually start complex and then begin to make my way towards simplifying the model. And with this one, I really want to make it work with one part instead of two. So here's my solution. If I turn this over, you see that I created a channel going through the bottom. However, it's not a straight channel. It has a wavy action to it. That's going to help secure the cable in place and keep it from moving around. And to keep the cable from popping out without having to snap fit a bottom piece, I created these little cantilevered edges that sweep part way and do the same thing to the other side. I'll go over how I tackle this in Fusion 360, but before I dive in, I want to talk about another challenge. I have 4 different USB cables here, and they are all different thicknesses, ranging from 2.75 millimeters to 3.4 millimeters. In order for this design to work, the cable has to fit snug. Too tight, and the cable won't fit. Too loose, and it'll fall out. At the end of the day, I decided to design for the 2.9 millimeter cable, which is the official cable that comes with Apple products. It fits the 2.9 cable really well with a nice satisfying snap when you get the cable through. It still works with the thinner cables, although not as snug as I would like. Now, in 3D printing these, I decided to go with a two-tone so that the name can pop from the backing. I'm printing with a single extruder, so it meant I had to swap filament during the print. This can easily be done within your slicer settings. Alright, let's jump into Fusion 360 and I'll show you exactly how I tackled this design. Okay, here's our finished model here that we're going to make, and we see our name here extruded. But the bulk of the work is really going to take place behind the model here, where we're going to go ahead and model this curved channel here with these overhangs to be able to hold our cable in place so it doesn't pop out. Alright, so let's dive in. And just keep in mind, I'm going to go fairly quick through this tutorial. I tend to go very fast on my YouTube videos, and if you really want to see a slowed down version, a very step-by-step approach, then I'm going to recommend you check out my quick start guide. The way I run these YouTube videos is not the way I actually teach. I go a lot slower when I teach. But if you have trouble following, make sure to check out the quick start guide with the link below, and then you can come back and you'll have a much easier time following my YouTube videos once you get the basics down. So okay, having said that, I'll create a new design up here, and then I'm going to create a sketch on my XY plane. I'm going to grab my 2-point rectangle here. I'll start at the origin, and I'm going to give this a dimension of 15 by 30 millimeters. Enter. Here's my rectangle. I'm going to click Finish Sketch. E for extrude, and I'm going to take this and bring it up 5 millimeters. Click OK. All right, now that I have my rectangle, in order to create that channel there, I'm gonna create another rectangle here and sweep it through. So to do that, I'll go to a right view here in my view cube, create a sketch on that surface. And I'm gonna sketch here to the side. A lot of times I like to sketch to the side and then bring it in place. So I'll just hit R for 2-point rectangle, start drawing a rectangle, and I'm gonna make this 4 by 3.72. And I'll explain a little later why I'm choosing that 3.72 there. So just gonna hit enter for now. And then to bring this in place, a quick way to do it is just grab my midpoint constraint here, because basically I want this bottom edge to be centered on this line. So I'll just select this bottom edge here, select the bottom line, and there it goes. Okay, now I can click finish sketch, and then next I need to give this a path to sweep through. So I'm gonna create a sketch on this bottom surface here. And let's go ahead and project this sketch in this outline into our sketch. So I'll hit P for project, select this surface, click OK. And the reason I do that is because now I can untoggle the visibility of the body and I just have this outline of where I need to sketch. I'm going to grab my spline tool here and I'm going to go with the fit point spline. And I'm going to start at the left edge here. I'm going to reference that midpoint constraint. And the next point I want to reference is the center point on this rectangle, but I won't reference it unless I come up here first and reference it on the line. So I see there that triangle. Now if I go straight down, it'll hold that reference. I see that dashed line and it'll snap right into place. I'm going to place my second point there, and then my third point is going to reference the other midpoint constraint on the right edge, and I'll click the check mark. Now you may be asking, why would you grab the spline tool to create a straight line? I'll tell you why. It's because it's going to make it a lot easier here. If I just take this little anchor here, or the handle, and I drag it up a little bit, I just want to give it a little bit of a curve like this. It doesn't have to be super exact, so I'm not going to even bother putting in a dimension and an angle. I'm just going to give it a slight curve. And then for these points here, I want these to exit straight, or this line here to be perpendicular to this edge, because when my chord enters here, I want it to come in straight and not at an angle. So what I'll do there is I'll grab my horizontal constraint there. So first, let me select that line. I'll click on the handle and then constrain it to be horizontal. And I'll do the same thing with this side here. Okay, next I can also use my equal constraint to make sure that these handles are the same size. Notice I can change that line by dragging them in or out. So I'm just going to drag it out a little bit. And the important thing is I just want them to be equal. So equal constraint, select this handle and select this handle. And now if I drag them in and out, they move together. Okay, now that's all I really needed there. So what I'm going to do is finish sketch. And now I can bring the body back into view by toggling that visibility. And then I'm going to go to create, down to sweep, select my rectangle, and then my path is going to be this sweep line that I made there. Let's turn this up right here. And we see I get that path. And my operation is cut, and I'm going to click OK, and I have my tunnel here. Okay, next we're gonna create these little overhangs here, and to do that it's really the same approach. I'm gonna create a sketch on this surface here. So I'm looking at the left side right now, and I'm gonna flip it so I'm looking at it this way. We'll use the project tool again. So P for project, I'm gonna select that body here, click OK. Now I can untoggle the visibility and I just have that outline. So L for line, I'm going to draw a line going straight across here, referencing this edge, and then coming down and referencing this vertical edge there, making sure you get that perpendicular constraint here to guarantee that this line is straight. Okay, now D for dimension, I'm going to make this line 1 millimeters, or 1 millimeter, and then I'm going to click on this edge and this edge, or that point and this point here, make that 1 millimeter distance. Okay, now I'm going to finish that sketch, bring the body back into view, grab my sweep tool here, and I'm going to select this profile. The path is going to be this edge here. Operation, I'm going to change it from a cut to a join. And notice I have this arrow here. I don't have to go all the way, the distance of that edge. I can actually bring that back quite a bit. And if I start bringing it back, notice when I'm all the way, it's at 1. So that's a full length is 1. But I only want it to go about a third of the way. So in fact, I can even just type that in. If I type 0.3, that'll do it. And that's my sweep there. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Normally for something like this, I would mirror it, but the mirror is not going to work in this case. So I'm going to have to create a sketch on this surface and really just do the same thing. Let me flip it right side up. P for project, select that surface, click OK. Let's untoggle that visibility. And then I'm going to come in with my line tool. So L for line, draw my little triangle here, come in with my dimension tool. That's D for dimension, 1 millimeter for the top, and also 1 millimeter between these 2 points. And there we have it. Finish my sketch, bring that body back into view, and now I can go ahead and grab my sweep tool from under the create menu, select that profile, and my path is going to be this edge. I'll do the same thing here. I'm going to make that a join, and let's change this from 1 to 0.3, and there we have it, the same thing on this end. I'm going to fillet this edge here because I don't want it to be so sharp. That's right here. So what I'm going to do is select, actually let's deselect everything first by hitting escape or clicking on the white area, and then I'm going to hit F, select this edge and also this edge, and I'm going to do a very small fillet there, just a 0.2 millimeter fillet, and then hit enter. And there we have it. We got this nice radius there. And if I measure the distance, I can measure the minimum distance between this filleted edge here and the opposite surface there by going to inspect, select that surface, and then the opposite. I'm looking at 3 millimeters. And I said I would explain the dimension on my second sketch and how I got that. So the reason is I wanted that distance to be exactly 3 millimeters. So if I go back to my timeline here, right click and edit that second sketch, we'll see here that this is 3.72. Basically, I think I started with 3.5 and then played around with it. And then once I realized after I added that filleted edge what the dimension is, then I can come back and tweak this. So at 3.5, basically I realized that I needed to make it 0.22 millimeters bigger to give it a 3.72, so that it would then give me that measurement of 3 millimeters as I measure from here to here. So that's how it works. Sometimes you go with an educated guess, and then the fact that you have access to your timeline, you can go back and tweak dimensions, and then it'll actually update your model. All right, now that we have that, I'm gonna click F for fillet, and I just want to round the bottom out because well, the chord is gonna be round, so just a 1 millimeter fillet there. Click OK. All right, and now we have this whole base part complete, and so next we'll turn to creating our text. And to do that, I'll create a sketch on this top surface here. And we'll start with our text tool here. So create text. I'm going to create the text tool right up here. I'll just draw my text box first to roughly the size I want it to be. And then I'll go ahead and type my name in. Well, not my name, but someone's name, John. And next I'm going to go and change my font. I really like the Comic Sans font here. It's got that sort of nice handwritten look to it. And the height, I'm going to change that to 15 millimeters. And let's click OK. And then drag this into place here. And it's a little too big. The J here is going to go past the base here. And, that's going to require supports. So I'm going to bring it down a bit. Let's go to 13. Click OK. And that looks perfect. And I can see that the N overlaps here, but that's okay because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to squeeze this into place. And the way I'm going to do that is first, if I right click on the sketch, I can go to explode text, and that's going to explode it, which means basically it just gives me the outline and allows me to extrude these one by one. So I'll hit E for extrude. I'm going to select each of these profiles here. And let me make sure I got the top of this H little piece there because it was intersected by that body. I needed to select that separately. Okay, I'm going to go up 3 millimeters and bring the body into view. And now I have this. And all these are separate bodies if you take a look here. So what I want to do is actually, I think a neat effect I saw is to change the height, alternate the height of these. So I'm going to go and select the E and the H. E for extrude. I'm going to give those another 1 millimeter extrusion. So now I have this sort of alternating height. Okay, now I'm going to move these into place. I'm actually going to kind of squish them together. So I'm looking at a straight top-down view, and what you want to do is go to your view settings here, the little computer screen, camera. Click to perspective with ortho faces. That when you look at it at a straight top-down view, it'll actually show it very straight up down, and you're not looking at it at an angle, because I want to be able to see these edges here, how these bodies line up to these edges. Okay, so next I'm going to move these into place, and I'm going to select them from the browser here. And the way I'm going to do that is if I highlight over it, you see it tells me which body it is. So this is body 4. And I'll right click on that and go to move copy. And now I can grab this center square here and just kind of move that into place to align it. Click OK. The reason for that is if I click on the circle here and then go to move, it thinks I want to move the face, and I have to go in and change that from face to bodies, and I have to come back in and then reselect it again. It's just faster if you just do it from the browser. So the O here is body 2. See how it highlights blue? So I'm going to right click, move copy, and I'm just going to move this into place. I'm actually going to overlap it a bit. I like that look. You don't have to, you can, space them out evenly, but I'm gonna overlap and click OK. Same thing with the H here. If I highlight it, that's body 3. So I'm gonna right click, move, bring that right in, overlap it a bit, and let's grab that N. That's body 5. Move this into place. Again, a little overlap. Bring it up a bit. Okay, I'm actually going to move this H up just a little bit so that right foot is off the ground. Okay, looks like I have a little more room here on the right edge than I do on the left, so I'm going to center this in place. So what I'm going to do is select body 2, hold shift, select body 5. That'll select everything, right click down to move copy, and now it'll move everything together. And I'm just going to center that. Okay. All right, and that's the nameplate there. And now I do have 5 different bodies, and I want to combine those into one. So I'll go to modify down to combine, select my first body, click my tool bodies here, and I'll select each one of those other bodies. Click OK. The operation is join, and now everything is just one body here. All right, and of course you can add appearances. So A for appearance if you want to test out some colors here. Maybe go down to paint, glossy. Let's say the way I'm choosing to do this is I'm going to do the base all white. So I'll drag white here, and then maybe swap out the name and make it green. To make just the faces be green instead of the entire body, I'll select faces up here instead of bodies, and then I can go ahead and add the colors in that way just to kind of see. I'll just do the top layer right now, but you can obviously do all these sides, which would be quite a bit of work. So it may be easier to make everything green and then make the bottom white, because all these are separate faces here. But this gives you an idea of what or how it's going to look like. The white ends up actually looking gray, I think, basically to separate it from the background here. But you get the idea of how it's going to look. And next we can print this by going to Tools, Make 3D Print, select our body. I'm going to use my Prusa slicer here, so I'll click OK. Open up Prusa, and there's my model there. Now to go ahead and print this so that it gives me a filament swap at the right layer, what I can do is slice it. I'm just going with a 0.2 millimeter layer height here, PLA. I'll click on Slice, and then I can just simply drag this down. Prusa makes this really easy, the slicer, as far as when you want to change the filament. I'm just going to go to that layer where I first see that name being written, and I'm going to click on this little add button. And then if I carry this up, you see that it's showing me that the name is actually separate color than the base. And it's nice to have that simulation so that you know exactly how it looks. If I was to change the filament one layer too soon, then the top part of this fill here plus the name would be the same color, and that would not stand out. So, okay. Now we are all set to send this to our printer. If you decide to give this design a try, one tip I'll leave you with is that Tolerances are very important in this particular design because you want to make sure that that cable fits in there nice and snug. You know, you want to hear that satisfying snap when you pop it in. And not all printers are gonna behave the same when it comes to these tight tolerances. So you're gonna want to experiment a little bit with the distances here. What worked for me may not work exactly for you, even if you use the same cables. So you may have to iterate a few times to get it just right. But it's well worth the effort and very satisfying once you get it. Alright guys, if you're new to Fusion 360 and looking to get started in creating your own models and bringing your own ideas to life, the quickest and most efficient way is going to be through my free mini-series quick start guide. I've put the link below, click on it and be on your way to designing your own models. And if you feel you've already mastered the very basics, then check out my other courses, including 3D Printing Design Academy with Fusion 360, as well as Fusion 360 Next Level. If you have any questions, leave them down below, and I will see you in the next video.